The Valorian Dominion had ruled the stars for 6,000 years. In all that time, they had never known defeat. They had never known fear. They had conquered every species they had ever met, and they had met many. The galaxy was vast, but the Dominion was patient. Star by star, system by system, they had spread their empire across the Orion Arm until their territory covered more worlds than any single mind could count. Fleet Commander Zath stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Supremacy, and looked out at the stars through the massive viewing window. His gray skin reflected the light of distant suns. His four blinked slowly, one pair after the other, as he considered the orders he had just received. A new species had been discovered. They called themselves humans. They came from a small yellow star in a quiet corner of the galaxy system that the Dominion had marked as unremarkable and ignored for centuries. But now these humans had developed faster than light travel. Now they were spreading to nearby systems. Now they were becoming a problem. Tell me again, Zyra said to his intelligence officer. Tell me everything we know about these creatures. The intelligence officer, a thin creature named VTH with scales that changed color based on his emotions, pulled up the data on the main screen. His scales were a calm blue. He was not worried. The humans are a young species. Commander, they developed space travel only a few hundred years ago. Their faster-than-light technology is primitive compared to ours. They have colonized perhaps 30 systems, maybe 40. Their total population is somewhere around 50 billion. Zyra made a sound of dismissal. The Dominion controlled thousands of systems, their population numbered in the trillions. 50 billion was nothing. What about their military? Yes, V changed the display to show images of human ships. They were ugly things, all hard angles and sharp edges. They look like they had been built by creatures who did not understand beauty. Their warships are adequate for a species of their development level. Bates said they use a combination of kinetic weapons and directed energy, nothing we have not seen before, nothing we cannot handle. And the humans themselves, the screen changed again to show images of humans. Zyra studied them with all four eyes. They were strange creatures, 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Their skin came in various shades of brown and pink and tan. They had hair on their heads in colors ranging from black to gold to red. Their eyes were small and faced forward, giving them good depth perception but limited peripheral vision. They are fragile, has said a single blow from a Valoran warrior would kill one easily. They have no natural weapons, no claws, no fangs, no venom. They cannot survive in vacuum for more than a minute. They require a narrow range of temperatures to function. They need to eat and drink and sleep regularly. Honestly, Commander, it is remarkable they survived long enough to develop technology at all. Several officers on the bridge laughed at this. Cyrus allowed himself a small smile. Their lifespans, he asked. Approximately 100 years, Commander. Sometimes a bit more, sometimes less. More laughter. Zith himself was 400 years old, and he was considered young for a commander of his rank. The oldest Valorans lived for more than 1,000 years. What could a species accomplish when its members died so quickly? Do they have psychic abilities? Zith asked. None that we have detected, Commander. They appear to be completely sidelined. This was perhaps the most damning piece of information. Every Advanced species in the galaxy had some level of psychic ability. The Valorans could communicate telepathically over short distances. Some species could move objects with their minds, others could sense danger before it arrived, but humans had nothing. They were deaf to the mental frequencies that connected all intelligent life. Zaius turned away from the screen and looked at his senior officers. There were 12 of them, representing the 12 species that made up the Dominion. Each species had been conquered long ago, but they had been given positions of honor within the Empire. It was the Valoran way: defeat your enemies, then make them your servants. It was efficient. The High Council has decided that these humans must be brought into the Dominion. Zyrus announced they are expanding too quickly. If we allow them to grow unchecked, they may become a nuisance. Better to deal with them now while they are still weak. Admiral Faison, Zareth's second in command, stepped forward. She was a Valoran like Zith, but older and more cautious. Her gray skin was marked with the scars of many battles. How many ships will we take, Commander? She asked. Zyra had already considered this question. The standard protocol for conquering a new species was to send a fleet of 50 ships. It was always more than enough, but the High Council wanted to make a statement. They wanted the humans to see the full might of the Dominion and surrender without a fight. 400 ships, Zaya said, thought the bridge went quiet. 400 ships was an enormous force. It was the largest fleet assembled in over a century. For a species as primitive as humans, it was absurd overkill. Commander Theon said carefully, is that not excessive? It is the will of the High Council. Zyrus replied, they want this conquest to be quick and clean. No resistance, no complications. We will arrive with such overwhelming force that the humans will have no choice but to surrender immediately. The nodded slowly. She did not argue further. One did not argue with the High Council. Over the next several days, the fleet assembled. Ships came from across the Dominion, gathering at the staging point near the border of human space. 400 warships, each one capable of destroying a planet. 400 crews, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, all ready to add another species to the Dominion's collection. Zaius watched the fleet come together from the bridge of the eternal supremacy. His ship was the largest dreadnought-class vessel that stretched for kilometers. Its weapons could crack a moon in half. Its shields could withstand a supernova. It was the most powerful ship in the Dominion fleet, and Zaius was proud to command it. As the final ships arrived and took their positions, Zareth called a meeting of all ship captains. Their holographic images filled the eternal supremacy's war room. Hundreds of faces looking up at him expectantly. Captains of the Dominion, Zaius began, we have been given a great honor. We will bring a new species into our empire. We will add their worlds to our territory, their people to our workforce, their resources to our wealth. This is what we do. This is what we have always done. He paused for effect, looking out at the assembled holograms. The humans are primitive. They are weak. They have no idea what is coming for them. This will not be battle. It will be a demonstration. We will show them our power, and they will kneel. If they do not kneel, we will force them to their knees. Either way, the result will be the same. A captain near the front raised his hand. He was a Kreen, a reptilian species known for their aggression. Commander, what if the Humans fight back, Zaya smiled. Then we will crush them, but I do not expect much resistance. The intelligence reports are clear. The humans are not warriors, they are builders and farmers. And scientists, they will see our fleet. And they will understand that resistance is pointless. Another captain spoke up. This one a Milari, an insectoid species with compound eyes. Where do we strike first, Commander? We will begin with their outermost colony, Zayas said. A system they call New Helsinki. It is one of their newer settlements with a population of approximately 12 million. We will take it quickly and use it as a staging ground for the rest of the conquest. He pulled up a map of human space on the war room's main display. It was small, pitifully small compared to the Dominion's territory. The humans had spread across a tiny corner of the galaxy, and they probably thought they were important. They probably thought they mattered. Zith would teach them. Otherwise, we jump in 6 hours, he announced. Prepare your ships, prepare your crews. By this time tomorrow, the Dominion will have a new colony world. The captains saluted, and their holograms flickered out. Zyra stood alone in the war room for a moment, studying the map of human space. Such a small territory, such a young species. They had no idea what was about to happen to them. 6 hours later, the fleet was ready. 400 ships hung in formation, their engines glowing, their weapons charged. Zyrus stood on the bridge of the eternal supremacy and gave the order. All ships jumped to hyperspace. Target New Helsinki system. Space twisted around the fleet. Stars stretched into lines of light. The ships accelerated beyond the speed of light, folding space itself to cross the vast distances between stars. The journey would take only a few hours, but to Zithis it felt like an eternity. He was eager to begin the conquest. He was eager to add another victory to his record. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Helsinki system. Zith expected to see the usual chaos of a primitive colony world. He expected to see a handful of civilian ships fleeing in panic. He expected to see defense satellites activating too late to make any difference. Instead, he saw something else. Commander, the sensor officer said, his voice confused. I am detecting a ship directly ahead. Zith looked at the main screen. There, floating in the darkness between stars, was a single vessel. It was small compared to the Dominion warships, perhaps half the size of a standard cruiser. It was shaped like a blade, all smooth curves and sharp edges. It was painted black, almost invisible against the void. One ship, Zaya said. He could not hide his surprise. Yes, Commander. Just one. It appears to be waiting for us. Zaya stared at the screen. He had expected the humans to be caught off guard. He had expected them to scramble their defenses in a panic. He had not expected them to send a single ship to meet an armada of 400. They cannot be serious, he said. Admiral Theon moved to stand beside him. Perhaps it is a diplomatic vessel, Commander. Perhaps they wish to negotiate a surrender. Perhaps Zai considered this possibility. It would make sense. The humans had detected the incoming fleet and realized they could not win. They had sent a single ship to meet the Dominion and beg for mercy. It was pathetic, but it was also sensible. Open a channel, Zyra ordered. Let us hear what they have to say. The communications officer worked his console. A moment later, the main screen flickered and changed. Instead of showing the black ship against the stars. It now showed the inside of that ship's bridge. A human sat in the captain's chair. It was a female Zai. Guessed based on the intelligence reports, she had black hair cut short and dark eyes that seemed to look right through the screen. She wore a uniform of some kind, dark blue with gold markings on the shoulders. Her expression was calm, attention. Unidentified fleet, the human said. Her voice was clear and steady. I am Captain Yuki Tanaka of the United Earth Navy. Ship Thermopylae, you have entered territory protected by the Earth Alliance. State your intentions. Zyrus almost laughed. State your intentions. He had 400 warships, and this single human captain was asking him to explain himself. I am Fleet Commander Zareth of the Valoran Dominion, he replied, putting as much authority into his voice as he could. We have come to claim this system and all human territory for the Dominion. You will surrender immediately and submit to our authority, Captain. Tanaka did not react. Her expression did not change. She simply looked at him with those dark, steady eyes. I'm afraid that is not possible, Commander, she said. This system is under Earth's protection. Your fleet will turn around and leave the way it came. There will be no further warnings. Zyrus felt his anger rising. This human was giving him orders. This creature, this primitive being from a backwater planet, was telling him what to do. Captain, he said, his voice cold. I have 400 warships. You have one. Even your limited intelligence must be able to understand what that means. Surrender now and your people will be treated well. Resist and you will be destroyed. I understand perfectly, Commander, Tanaka replied. You have 400 ships. I have one, and yet I'm telling you to leave. I suggest you consider what that might mean. The channel closed. The screen returned to showing the black ship floating alone against the stars. Zyrus stood in silence for a long moment. Around him, his officers exchanged confused glances. They had never seen anything like this before. Every species they had ever conquered had either surrendered immediately or mounted a desperate, futile defense. None had ever simply refused to acknowledge the obvious. Commander, Admiral Thesson said quietly, what are your orders? Zaius was about to order the fleet to advance when his censor officer spoke again. This time there was something different in his voice, something that sounded almost like fear. Commander, I am running detailed scans of the human ship. The results are unusual. How Zith demanded. The censor officer did not answer immediately. He ran the scan again. Then he ran it a third time. His hands were shaking. Commander, he said finally, the power output of that ship, it does not make sense. According to our sensors, that single vessel is generating more energy than our entire fleet combined. The bridge went silent. Every officer turned to look at the censor officer, then at the screen, then at Zyra. Zai felt something he had not felt in centuries. It was a cold sensation starting in his stomach and spreading outward. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was the beginning of fear. Run the scan again, he ordered. I have run it 3 times, Commander. The results are consistent. Zyra stared at the black ship on the screen. It looked so small. It looked so fragile, but the numbers did not lie. The numbers were impossible. Commander, the censor officer said, his voice barely above a whisper, their weapon systems just came online. And for the first time in 6,000 years of conquest, a Valoran fleet. Commander did not know what to do. The bridge of the eternal supremacy was silent. Every officer stood frozen at their station, staring at the main screen where the human ship waited in the darkness. The sensor readings were displayed in the corner of the screen, and no one could stop looking at them. The numbers were impossible. The numbers changed everything. Cyrus forced himself to breathe slowly. He was a fleet commander. He had conquered a dozen worlds. He had faced enemies that would make most species run in terror. He would not be frightened by a single ship, no matter what the sensor said. There must be an error, he said. His voice was steady, but he could hear the doubt in it. Our sensors must be malfunctioning. Run a full diagnostic. The sensor officer worked his console with trembling fingers. Commander, I've already run 3 diagnostics. The sensors are functioning perfectly. The readings are accurate. They cannot be accurate, Admiral Theon said. She stepped forward and studied the data herself. This ship is generating more power than a star. That is not possible. Nothing that small can produce that much energy, and yet the sensor officer replied, that is what the readings show. Zyra turned to his science officer, an elderly Milori named Keth, who had served in the fleet for 300 years. Kath was the smartest being Zyrath had ever met, if anyone could explain this, it was him. Kath, Zyra said, explain this to me. How can one small ship have more power than 400 warships? Keth studied the readings for a long moment. His compound eyes flickered as he processed the information. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. Commander, I do not know. Our understanding of physics says this should be impossible. Either the humans have discovered something we have not, or our entire understanding of the universe is wrong. That is not helpful. Zaya snapped, I'm sorry, Commander, but the truth is really helpful. Zyrus turned back to the screen. The human ship had not moved. It simply sat there, waiting. Its weapons were online, but it had not fired. It was as if Captain Tanaka was giving them time to think, time to understand what they were facing. That calm confidence was more frightening than any threat could have been. Commander, the communications officer said, the other ships in the fleet are requesting information. They have completed their own scans. They are concerned. That was one word for it. Zyrus could imagine the chaos on those 400 bridges right now. Captains who had never known fear were looking at their sensor readings and feeling something cold growing in their stomachs. Tell them to hold position, Zyrus ordered. Tell them to wait for my orders. He needed time to think. He needed to understand what was happening. There had to be an explanation. The humans were a primitive species. They had been traveling the stars for only 200 years. The Dominion had been conquering worlds for 6,000. How could a species so young have built something so powerful? Commander, Keth said suddenly, I have been analyzing the hull of the human ship. I have found something interesting. What is it? Key put his findings on the main screen. Image zoomed in on the whole of the Thermopylae. At first, Zareth did not see anything unusual. Then he noticed the marks, lines and patches where the metal was a slightly different color, areas where the hull had been damaged and repaired. Those are battle scars. Key said this ship has been in combat before many times. By the look of it, it has been Hit by weapons fire, repaired and sent back into battle, so Zayas said. Many warships bear the marks of previous engagements. Yes, Commander, but look at the pattern of damage. Keith highlighted several areas on the hull. These marks were caused by weapons similar to our own, directed energy weapons, kinetic impacts, standard military technology. What is your point? My point, Commander, is that this ship has fought enemies with weapons like ours before. It was damaged, it was repaired, and it is still here, still functioning, still powerful enough to make our sensors scream in alarm. Keith paused. Whatever hit this ship before it survived, I do not think we can hit it any harder than whoever came before us. The bridge was silent again. Officers exchanged nervous glances. Some of them looked like they wanted to run. Zyrus refused to accept this. He was a fleet commander of the Valoran Dominion. He had never run from anything in his life. He would not start. Now, open a channel to the human ship, he ordered. The screen flickered. Captain Tanaka appeared again. She looked exactly as she had before, calm, patient, unafraid. Commander Zai, she said, have you reconsidered your position? I have questions, Zyrus replied. Before I make any decisions, I want answers. Tanaka tilted her head slightly. Ask your ship. The Thermopylae. Our sensors show a power output that should be impossible. How is this possible? Tanaka smiled slightly. It was not a mocking smile. It was the smile of a teacher watching a student ask a good question. Commander, I am not a scientist. I cannot explain the technical details to you. What I can tell you is that humanity has faced many challenges in our short history. We have had to develop solutions to problems that threatened our survival. Our technology reflects that necessity. That is not an answer. It is the only answer I am authorized to give. Tanaka leaned forward slightly in her chair. But I will tell you something else, Commander, something that might help you make your decision. What the Thermopylae is not a battleship. It is not a dreadnought. It is not even a heavy cruiser. Tanaka paused, letting the words sink in. The Thermopylae is a border patrol vessel. It is designed to watch over quiet sectors, to respond to minor incidents, to show the flag in peaceful times. It is one of the smallest warships in the United Earth Navy. Zayas felt the cold in his stomach. Grower, you are lying. I am not. The Thermopylae has a crew of 200. It carries standard patrol armaments. It is considered adequate for dealing with pirates and smugglers. Tanaka's smile faded. If Earth had known you were coming with 400 ships, Commander, they would not have sent me. They would have sent something larger. How much larger? Admiral then asked. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Our main battle fleet has 12,000 ships, Tanaka said simply. Our largest dreadnoughts are 40 times the size of the Thermopylae, with proportionally greater firepower. If you would like, I can show you. Before Zyra could respond, Tanaka nodded to someone off-screen. A moment later, a data package arrived on the Eternal Supremacy's communication system. I am sending you some historical footage, Tanaka said. It is unclassified material. Your intelligence services probably already have copies if they have been paying attention. I suggest you watch it before making any decisions. I will wait. Channel closed. Zareth stared at the screen for a moment, then turned to his communications officer. What did she send us? Video files, Commander. Several Hours of footage, it appears to be. Combat recordings. Put it on screen, the main display. Changed. For a moment there was only darkness, then the footage began. The first image showed a planet. It was a beautiful world, blue and green and white orbiting a yellow sun. Text appeared at the bottom of the screen, identifying it as New Sydney Colony, 2387. Then the ships came, they dropped out of faster than light travel in massive numbers, hundreds of them, thousands of them. They were ugly vessels, all spines and angles painted in dark colors. They were not human ships, the CF hegemony. Kath whispered, I recognized those designs. They were a warrior species. From the far side of the galaxy, they disappeared about 40 years ago. Disappeared? Xyrus asked. Yes, Commander, no one knew what happened to them. One day they were conquering worlds, the next they were gone. Their entire civilization vanished. On screen, the Kree fleet began bombarding the human colony. Cities burned, millions died. The human defenders fought back, but they were overwhelmed. It was a massacre. Then the footage changed. New angle, new location. The text read, Sol System. 3 months later, the CFT fleet had come to Earth. They had come with everything they had, thousands of warships, millions of soldiers, determined to wipe out humanity once and for all. They surrounded the human home world like a cloud of locusts, and then the human fleet arrived. Zith watched in silence as the first human ships dropped out of faster than light travel. They were massive, they were beautiful, they were nothing like the Thermopylae. These were weapons of war, pure and simple, designed for one purpose, to kill. The human fleet was smaller than the Kree Armada, perhaps 3,000 ships against 10,000. By normal military logic, the humans should have been destroyed. The battle lasted 4 hours. Xyrus watched as the human ships tore through the Kree formation like fire through dry grass. He watched as Kree dreadnoughts, ships that should have been invincible, were cut apart by weapons he could not even identify. He watched as the Kree fleet tried to retreat, tried to run, and were hunted down one by one. By the end, there was nothing left. The entire Kree Armada was debris. The human fleet had lost fewer than 100 ships. The footage continued. It showed the aftermath. The human fleet did not stop at defending their home world. They followed the Kree back to their own territory, system by system, world by world. They dismantled the entire Kree hegemony, not conquering, not occupying, destroying every shipyard, every military base, every facility that could ever be used to threaten humanity again. The craft did not disappear, they were erased. Final image was a human admiral standing on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at the wreckage of the Kree home world. His face was tired, his uniform was stained with blood and smoke. He looked like a man who had seen too much death and wanted nothing more than for it to be over, but his eyes were hard. His eyes were the eyes of someone who would do whatever was necessary to protect his people, someone who would not stop until the threat was eliminated. The footage ended. The bridge of the eternal supremacy was absolutely silent. No one moved, no one spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of the ship systems. Xyrus realized his hands were shaking. He clasped them behind his back so his officers would not see. Commander, Admiral Thyssen said. Her voice was unsteady. That Footage, the CF were one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. They had been conquering worlds for thousands of years. They had technology we considered advanced, and the humans destroyed them. Xyrath. Finished in a matter of months, yes. Zith looked at the main screen. The Thermopylae still waited there, patient and silent. A patrol ship, a small patrol ship, and behind it, somewhere in the darkness of space, was a fleet that had wiped out an entire civilization. The communications officer spoke up. Commander, the other ships in the fleet are asking for orders. Some of them have also received the footage. There is talk of withdrawing. Withdrawing? Zaius felt a flash of anger. The Dominion does not withdraw. We have never retreated from any enemy in 6,000 years, Commander Theon said carefully. We've also never faced an enemy like this. Zaius wanted to argue. He wanted to insist that they could still win, that their 400 ships could overwhelm the single human vessel, that the footage was propaganda and lies. But he was a military officer. He understood numbers. He understood power. And he understood, with a cold certainty, that everything he had believed about the galaxy was wrong. The humans were not primitive. The humans were not weak. The humans were something else entirely. Commander, the sensor officer said, the Thermopylae is hailing us again. Put her through. Captain Tanaka appeared on screen. Her expression had not changed. She still looked calm, patient, almost kind. Commander Zith, she said, have you finished watching the footage? Yes. Then you understand your situation. Your fleet is powerful by the standards of most species, but you are not facing most species. You are facing humanity. And we have had a great deal of practice at war. Zyra forced himself to speak. The footage shows your fleet defeating the CF 40 years ago. Perhaps your technology has grown weak since then. Perhaps you are not as powerful as you once were. Perhaps. Tanaka smiled again. That same teacher's smile. But consider this, Commander. The fleet that destroyed the Kree was built in desperation, with limited resources, by a species fighting for survival. That was 40 years ago. We have had 4 decades to improve, to refine, to prepare for the next threat. She leaned forward. Thermopylae is a patrol ship. It carries the standard equipment of a vessel designed for peacetime operations. And yet your sensors tell you it outpowers your entire armada. Imagine what a true warship could do. Imagine what our dreadnoughts could do. Imagine what our battle stations could do. Xyrus could not imagine. He did not want to imagine. You have a choice, Commander. Tanaka continued. You can turn your fleet around and leave this system in peace. You can report to your Dominion that humanity is not a species to be conquered. You can avoid a war that would destroy your empire. That is the wise choice. That is the choice I hope you will make. And if we do not? Tanaka's smile faded. Her dark eyes grew cold. Then I will do my duty. I will defend this system. I will defend the 12 million humans who live on New Helsinki. And when the United Earth Navy hears what has happened here, they will come not to conquer you, not to occupy your worlds. They will come to ensure that the Dominion never threatens another human colony again. She paused. We do not seek war, Commander. We are not conquerors. We do not want your territory or your resources or your people. We want only to be left in peace. But if you force us to fight, we will fight, and we will win. We always The channel closed. Zyra stood on his bridge surrounded by his officers and faced a truth he had never expected to confront. For the first time in his long life, he did not know if he could win, and the human patrol ship waited in the darkness, patient and silent, ready to show him what humanity could do. The tactical network that connected all 400 ships of the Dominion fleet was supposed to be a tool for coordination. It was supposed to allow captains to share information instantly, to respond to threats as a single unified force. It was supposed to make the fleet stronger. Now it was filling with panic. Cyrus listened to the chatter coming through the network and felt his grip on the situation slipping away. Captains were demanding explanations. Officers were sharing the sensor data, the footage, the impossible numbers. Some were calling for an immediate attack, others were calling for retreat. And a few, the ones who had fully understood what they were facing, were simply silent. Commander, Admiral, this said, stepping close so she could speak without being overheard, we need to make a decision. The fleet is losing confidence. If we wait much longer, some captains may act on their own. Act how? Zyra asked. Either attack without orders or flee without permission. Neither option ends well for us. Cyrus nodded slowly. That was right. He needed to take control of the situation before it spiraled beyond his ability to manage, but first he needed more information. He needed to understand what they were truly facing. Keith, he called to a science officer, I want everything you can find about human military capabilities. Search our databases. Search our intelligence files. Search everything we have ever collected about this species. The old Mallory nodded and turned to his console. His compound eyes flickered as he worked, accessing files that had been gathered over decades of long-range observation. The Dominion had been watching humanity for a long time. They had just never considered them a threat. While Keth worked, Zareth turned to his tactical officer, a scarred veteran named Drax, who had served in more battles than anyone else on the bridge. Drax analysis: if we attacked the human ship right now with all 400 vessels firing at once, what would happen? Drax was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy, based on the sensor readings. Commander, I do not think we would scratch their shields. Their power output is too high. They would absorb everything we threw at them and barely notice. And if we tried to overwhelm them with numbers, surround them from all sides, then we would be spreading our fire across multiple angles, reducing the impact of each volley, and it would give them clear shots at all of us. Drax shook his head. Commander, I have been fighting wars for 200 years. I have never seen readings like these. That ship is not a threat we can solve with superior numbers. Zaius felt the cold in his stomach growing colder. He had known the answer before he asked the question. He had simply needed to hear it from someone else. Commander, Keth said suddenly, I have found something in the intelligence archives. Something important. What is it? Keth put his findings on the main screen. It showed a document, a report compiled by Dominion intelligence agents several years ago. The report analyzed the structure of the human military. According to this report, CTH said, the humans divide their naval forces into several categories. There are patrol ships which handle routine security. There are cruisers, which provide heavy support. There are battleships which lead major engagements. There are dreadnoughts which anchor entire fleets, and there are there are things they call planet crackers, then repeated. Yes, according to the report, these are strategic weapons platforms designed to destroy entire worlds. The humans built them during their civil war. Xyrath interrupted. What civil war? Keith pulled up more information. The screen filled with images and text, documenting a conflict that had torn humanity apart centuries ago. Approximately 250 years before they developed faster than light travel, Kath explained. Humans fought a war among themselves. It lasted for decades. It killed billions. It devastated their home world and nearly drove them to extinction. They fought each other, sounded confused before they even left their planet. Yes, and according to this report, the weapons they developed for that war were the foundation of their current military technology. They built the first version of these power systems to kill each other. They refined them over generations. By the time they encountered the crest, they had weapons designed for total annihilation. Zaya stared at the screen. The images showed ruined cities, burnt landscapes, the scars of a war fought with weapons of terrible power, and this was before humanity had reached the stars. This was what they had done to themselves, to their own world, to their own people. What kind of species would do that? What kind of mind would create weapons to destroy their own kind? And then he understood that was why the humans were so dangerous. They had not developed their technology to conquer others. They had developed it to survive. They had built weapons capable of ending their own civilization because their survival demanded it. And when they turned those weapons outward toward external threats, they were simply doing what came naturally. The Dominion conquered because it could. Humanity fought because it had to. Commander Key continued. There is more. The report includes a classification system used by human naval intelligence. Each ship class is assigned a threat rating based on its capabilities. He highlighted a section of the document. The Thermopylae, the ship we are facing, is classified as a Sentinel class patrol vessel. According to human records, it has a threat rating of 4. 4 out of what? The asked. Out of 100. The bridge went silent. Officers looked at each other with expressions of disbelief and growing fear. 4. Xyrus repeated. That ship, the one our sensors say could outpower our entire fleet, is rated at 4% of maximum human military capability. Yes, Commander. The highest rated vessels, the dreadnoughts and the strategic platforms, are rated between 80 and 100. If this report is accurate, the most powerful human warships are approximately 25 times more dangerous than a Thermopylae. Xyrus did not respond. He could not. Numbers were too big. The implications were too vast. He had brought 400 ships to conquer a species that could apparently build vessels capable of destroying entire fleets without effort. The tactical network buzzed with new activity. More captains were asking questions. More officers were demanding answers. And now, for the first time, Zerth heard something he had never heard. In a Dominion fleet, he heard panic. "This is Captain Velith of the Crimson Blade," a voice said over the network. "I am requesting permission to withdraw my ship from the formation. These readings cannot be accurate. There must be a malfunction. We need to return to base and recalibrate our sensors. This is Captain Moreth of the Iron Fist. I agree with Captain Bellies. We should not engage until we understand what we are facing. This is Captain Dreven of the Starbreaker. I do not care what the readings say. I will not run from a single ship. We are the Dominion. We have never retreated. We should attack now while we have the advantage of numbers. The voices overlapped, arguing, debating, filled with fear and anger and confusion. Zyra listened to the chaos and realized that his fleet was fracturing. The confident armada that had jumped into this system was coming apart, dissolved by something it did not understand. Enough, Zaret said. He broadcast his voice across the entire tactical network, overriding all other traffic. This is Fleet Commander Zyrus. All captains will maintain position. No one will withdraw. No one will attack. We will hold our position until I get further orders. The network went quiet. 400 captains waited for their commander to tell them what to do. Zyrus wished he knew. Commander, the communications officer said, we are receiving another transmission from the Thermopylae. Captain Tanaka is requesting to speak with you. Zyrith hesitated. What more could she possibly have to say? She had already shown him footage of humanity destroying an entire civilization. She had already told him that her ship was nothing compared to the real human war fleet. What else was there? But he was a commander. He needed information. He needed to understand his enemy. Put her through, he said. Captain Tanaka appeared on the screen. She looked the same as before, calm and patient, but there was something different in her expression now, a hint of sympathy, a touch of sadness. Commander Zyrus, she said, I imagine you are having a difficult time. You could say that. Zith replied, I want you to know that I do not enjoy this. I did not come here hoping for a confrontation. I was assigned to patrol this sector because nothing ever happens here. New Helsinki is a quiet colony, farmers and miners, and families trying to build a new life. They do not deserve to be caught in the middle of a war. Then why are you threatening us? Zyrus demanded. I am not threatening you, Commander. I am informing you there is a difference. Tanaka leaned back in her chair. I have told you what humanity is capable of. I have shown you evidence of what we have done to those who have attacked us. I am giving you the information you need to make an intelligent decision. And what decision do you think I should make? I think you should leave. I think you should take your fleet back to Dominion space and tell your leaders that humanity is not an enemy they want. I think you should recommend peaceful contact, trade agreements, diplomatic relations. I think you should help your people understand that there are some species who cannot be conquered. The Dominion has never retreated, Zyrus said. The words sounded hollow even to him. We have conquered every species we have ever encountered. It is what we do, and one day that strategy was going to fail. Tanaka's voice was gentle but firm. The galaxy is a large place, Commander. Sooner or later, every conqueror meets someone stronger. You can learn from that meeting and adapt, or you can fight and die. The choice is yours. Zyrus was silent for a long moment. Around him, his officers waited. Through the tactical work, 400 captains listened. The entire Dominion fleet was hanging on his words. If I ordered my ships to attack right now, Zyrus said slowly, what would you do? I would destroy Them, all of them, all 400. Yes, you sound very confident. I am Tanaka. Did not smile. Her expression was serious, almost sad. Commander, I have been in the Navy for 30 years. I have seen combat. I have lost friends. I know what it costs to fight a war. I do not want to kill your crews. They are soldiers following orders, doing what they believe is right. They do not deserve to die because their commanders made a bad decision. She stood up and moved closer to the camera. Her dark eyes filled the screen. But if you force me to choose between your fleet and the 12 million humans on New Helsinki, I will not hesitate. I will burn every ship you have. I will send the wreckage drifting through space as a warning to anyone else who thinks about attacking human territory, and then I will go home and try to forget the lives I took. Today her voice hardened. Cannot make me do that, Commander, please. Zyra stared at the screen. He looked into Captain Tan to knock his eyes and saw something he had not expected. He saw exhaustion. He saw grief. He saw someone who had done terrible things because she had no choice, and who would do terrible things again if necessary. She was not a monster. She was not a conqueror. She was a warrior protecting her people, the same as him. The only difference was that she had the power to back up her words. Captain, he said, I need time to consult with my commanders. Can you give me that? Tanaka nodded. I can give you 1 hour, Commander. 1 hour to decide. After that I will need an answer. 1 hour, I understand. I hope you use it wisely. Tanaka sat back down in her chair. I truly do not want a war with you, Dominion. Humanity has had enough war. We want to explore the galaxy, meet new species, learn new things. We want to trade and cooperate and build something better than what came before. But we will defend ourselves always. The channel closed. Zyra stood on his bridge and faced the hardest decision of his life. He had been raised to believe that the Dominion was invincible. He had spent his entire career conquering worlds and destroying enemies. He had never once considered the possibility of defeat. Now he had to choose between pride in his people. Commander, Admiral then said quietly. She stood beside him, her face troubled. What are we going to do? Zyra looked at the main screen where the Thermopylae waited in the darkness. Such a small ship, such enormous power. And behind it, somewhere in the endless void, a species that had learned to fight for survival and had never forgotten how. I do not know, he admitted, but I have 1 hour to figure it out. The countdown began. The war room of the Eternal Supremacy was designed to hold 500 officers for strategic planning sessions. Now it held only 12, the senior commanders of the Dominion fleet, and the tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a blade. Zur stood at the head of the table, looking at the faces of his most trusted officers. These were beings who had served the Dominion for centuries. They had conquered worlds together. They had celebrated victories and mourned losses. They were the best the Empire had to offer, and they were afraid. We have heard the evidence, Zyra said. We have seen the footage. We have reviewed the sensor data. Now we must decide what to do. Admiral Thyssen spoke first. The choice seems clear to me. Commander, we should withdraw, return to Dominion space, report what we have found. Let the High Council decide how to proceed. You are suggesting we retreat? Admiral Kreth, a massive Valoran warrior, covered in battle scar, slammed his Fist on the table, we are the Dominion. We have conquered 1,000 worlds, we do not run from a single ship, we do not usually face ships that could destroy us. Without effort, the replied coldly did. You not see the censored data, did you? Not watch the footage of what the humans did to the hegemony. Propaganda, krelled. Lies designed to frighten us. Humans are clever, I will give them that, but they cannot truly be as powerful as they claim, the censors do. Not lie, said Science Officer Keth. I have verified the readings myself. The Thermopoly's power output is real. Whatever technology they are using, it is far beyond anything we have seen before. Then we should capture the ship. KF insisted. Take it intact, study it. Learn its secrets. With that technology, the Dominion would be unstoppable. And how do you propose we capture it? Pawn asked. We cannot even damage it. Our weapons would be useless against it. Shields, we have numbers, we have superior tactics, we could die. Zareth interrupted. His voice was quiet, but carried clearly through the room. That is what would happen if we attacked. We would die, all of us, every ship in his fleet would be destroyed, and the humans would not even break a sweat. The room fell silent. Kree's face twisted with anger that he did not argue, even. He could not deny the evidence. Commander, said Admiral VTH, a thin scale burn known for his analytical mind, I have been thinking about the strategic implications of what we have learned. If the humans truly possess this level of technology, why have they not conquered the galaxy themselves? Why are they content with their small territory? It was a good question. Zith had been wondering the same thing. According to their captain, he said, they do not wish to conquer, they want peace, they want to explore and trade and cooperate, a species with that much power, and they do not use it to dominate others. Bates sounded skeptical. That seems unlikely, or it suggests something about their character. Zyrus remembered the look in Captain Tanaka's eyes when she had asked him not to force her to destroy his fleet. That had not been the look of a conqueror, it had been the look of a soldier tired of war. Perhaps, CTH said slowly, that is why they are so powerful, because they do not waste their strength on conquest, because they focus their efforts on defense rather than offense, because they built their military to protect, not to attack. That is a philosophy for the weak. Kree said the strong take what they want. The Seathage thought the same thing, then replied, where are they now? Kreth walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there beyond the edge of the new Helsinki system, the Thermopylae waited, one ship against 400. And yet that one ship held all the power. I have commanded fleets for 200 years, he said, not turning around. I have led soldiers into battle more times than I can count. I have always believed that victory came to those who were stronger, faster, more determined. I have always believed that the Dominion was the greatest power in the galaxy. He turned to face his officers. Today I learned that I was wrong. There is a species out there that could crush us without effort, a species that has weapons we cannot understand and power we cannot match, and they are asking us politely to leave them alone. What are you saying, Commander? Kree demanded. I'm saying that we have a choice. We can hold on to our pride and attack a ship we cannot defeat. We can die herein this system far from home, accomplishing nothing, or we can accept reality. We can return to the Dominion and report what We have found we can recommend peaceful relations with humanity. We can swallow our pride and survive. The room was silent. The Dominion has never retreated, Kree said, but his voice was less certain now. The anger was fading, replaced by something else, something that might have been acceptance. Then we will be the first, Zara said, and perhaps that will save us. He walked back to the table and placed both hands on its surface, looking at each of his officers in turn. I will not order an attack. I will not send our crews to their deaths for the sake of pride. We will withdraw from this system and return to Dominion space. That is my decision. For a long moment no one spoke. Then slowly Theon nodded. I agree with the commander. We should withdraw, as do I, said Bate. One by one the other officers added their agreement, even Kree, his face dark with frustration, eventually gave a reluctant nod. Very well, Cyrus said. Then we are decided. I will inform the fleet. He reached for the communications console to broadcast his orders. He never got the chance. Commander, the voice of the bridge communications officer cut through the war room speakers. We have a situation. Multiple ships are breaking formation. What? Zaius ran to the display panel and pulled up the tactical view. His blood went cold. More than 30 ships had left their positions in the fleet. They were not retreating, they were advancing, moving toward the Thermopylae with weapons charging. Who authorized this? Zaius demanded. No one, Commander. The captains are acting independently. They are saying. The communications officer hesitated. They are saying that they will not retreat. They are saying that the Dominion does not run from enemies. They are saying they will prove that the human threat is exaggerated. Fools, the breath. Zith grabbed the communications console and opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Fleet Commander Z'Yarth. You will hold your positions immediately. Any captain who continues to advance will be charged with insubordination. I repeat, hold your positions. For a moment he thought it would work. A few of the advancing ships slowed. A few began to turn back. Then a new voice came over the channel. Captain Dreven of the Starbreaker, the same captain who had called for an attack earlier. Commander Cyrus, with respect, your orders are unacceptable. The Dominion does not retreat. We have heard your arguments and we reject them. The sensor readings must be wrong. The footage must be fake. No single ship can defeat a fleet of this size. We will prove it. Captain Dreven, you are throwing away your life and the lives of your crew. Better to die with honor than live with shame. All ships that agree with me follow my lead. We attack now. The 30 ships that had been hesitating made their decision. They turned and accelerated toward the Thermopylae, joining the original group, 40 ships. Now 50, more were joining every second. Commander the said, what do we do? Zaius watched the display in horror. The rebels were almost within weapons range of the human ship. If they opened fire, if they forced the battle, everything would be lost. Open a channel to the Thermopylae, he ordered. Now the screen flickered. Captain Tanaka appeared. Her expression was no longer calm. Her eyes were hard. Her jaw set. Commander Zaius, I see some of your captains have made their choice. They are acting without authorization. I did not order this attack. I was about to give the order to withdraw. I believe you, Tanaka said, but their intentions do not change the situation. They are approaching with weapons charged. My duty is clear. Captain, please give me time to recall them. Give me a chance to stop this. Tanaka shook her head slowly. It is too late for that, Commander. They are in weapons range. If I wait any longer, they will fire first, and then I will have no choice at all. On the tactical display, Zareth watched as the rebel ships reached optimal firing distance. 60 ships, now 70, they were forming into an attack formation, preparing to unleash everything they had. At the human vessel, Captain Dreven, Zyra broadcast desperately, "Stand down. This is a direct order, stand down." Dreven's response was to open fire. 73 ships unleashed their weapons at once. Directed energy beams, kinetic projectiles, missiles, torpedoes. Everything they had, the void lit up. With the fury of their attack, a storm of destruction converging on a single point. The Thermopylae. Zyrus watched the display, waiting for the human ship to vanish in a ball of fire. No vessel could survive that kind of assault. No shields could hold against the combined firepower of 70 warships. But the Thermopylae did not vanish. The weapons fire struck the human ship's shields and stopped, dissipated, vanished. The energy simply disappeared, absorbed by a defense system that seemed to treat the assault as nothing more than a minor inconvenience. The shields did not even flicker. "Impossible," Kree whispered on the screen. Captain Tanaka sighed. It was a small sound, tired and sad. She looked away from the camera for a moment, and when she looked back, her eyes were cold. "Commander Zyra," she said, "I gave your fleet every chance. I warned you. I showed you evidence. I asked you to leave in peace, and now your captains have chosen war. Captain, those ships acted against my orders. It does not matter. They attacked a united Earth Navy vessel. They fired on a ship under my command. I cannot ignore that. I will not ignore that." She turned to someone off-screen and spoke 3 words: "Light them up." On the tactical display, something changed. The Thermopylae's weapon systems, which had been powered up but inactive, suddenly came fully online. Zith watched the numbers climb. With something beyond fear, something beyond terror, the human ship's weapon output alone was higher than the combined firepower of the entire Dominion fleet. And then the Thermopylae returned fire. It was not like anything Zith had ever seen. There were no visible beams, no missiles, no projectiles. One moment the rebel ships were floating in formation, weapons blazing. The next moment they were dark. Every ship that had attacked went silent. At the same instant, their weapons stopped firing. Their engines went dead. Their lights went out. They drifted powerless through the void like leaves on a still pond. The entire engagement had lasted less than 3 seconds. What? Kree stared at the display, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. What just happened? They are still alive, the sensor officer reported, his voice shaking. All 73 ships, their crews are still alive. Life support is functioning on emergency power, but their weapons are fused. Their engines are destroyed. They are completely disabled. The human ship did that. The asked to 73 vessels at once. Yes, Admiral. In approximately 2.7 seconds, Zyra sank into his command chair. His legs would no longer support him. He had just watched the human ship disable an entire attack force in less time than it took to draw breath, and it had done so without killing anyone. It could have destroyed them It could have vaporized every rebel ship with a thought. Instead, it had simply turned them off like a parent taking a toy away from a misbehaving child. The message was clear. Humanity did not want to kill, but they could at any moment, whenever they chose. On the screen, Captain Tanaka's expression had not changed. She still looked tired. She still looked sad. Commander Zith, she said, your rebel captains will live. Their ships will be towed to the edge of the system and released. They will need to be rescued by the rest of your fleet. But they will survive. Why? Zyra managed to ask. Why did you spare them? Because I do not want a war with the Dominion. Because killing them would force your government to respond. Because mercy is more powerful than destruction. Tanaka leaned forward. And because I wanted you to understand something, Commander. I wanted you to see exactly how outmatched you are, not so you would fear us, so you would respect us, so you would go home and tell your people that humanity is not an enemy to be trifled with. Zyrus nodded slowly. He understood. Finally, completely, he understood. Captain Tanaka, he said, I will withdraw my fleet. We will return to Dominion space. I will report everything I have seen here today. Good. Tanaka smiled slightly, and some of the warmth returned to her expression. I hope your report leads to peace between our peoples. Commander, the galaxy is large enough for both of us. The channel closed. Zaius sat in his chair and stared at the tactical display. 73 ships, dark and drifting. 327 ships waiting in formation, untouched but terrified, and one human patrol ship, small and scarred, holding the power to destroy them all. All ships, Zaius said quietly, begin rescue operations for the disabled vessels. Once all crews are secured, we will withdraw to Dominion space. No one argued, no one questioned. The fleet had seen what humanity could do. The Dominion had met a species it could not conquer, and for the first time in 6,000 years, they were going home in defeat. Yes, Counselor, that is my recommendation. Ver was silent for a long moment. The other counselors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some looked angry, some looked frightened, some simply looked lost. This is unprecedented, Vith said. Finally, in 6,000 years, the Dominion has never retreated from any enemy. We have never accepted defeat. We have never negotiated from a position of weakness. With respect, High Counselor, we are not negotiating from a position of weakness. We are recognizing reality. Zaya stood straight, meeting the ancient counselor's gaze. The humans do not want war. They want peace. They want to be left alone. If we can give them that, if we can accept them as equals rather than subjects, we can avoid a conflict that would destroy us. Equals. Council address. A young firebrand known for his aggressive stance spat the word like a curse. You would have us treat these primitive creatures as our equals. I would have us survive, Counselor. That is all. Zyra turned to face Drath directly. I have seen what humanity can do. I have watched their weapons disable an entire attack force in seconds. I have studied the footage of what they did to the Cregemony. These are not primitive creatures. These are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. Then we should strike first before they become even stronger. With what? Zith asked. Our entire war fleet. The humans destroyed the Kree with 3,000 ships. They now have 12,000. If we sent every vessel that Dominion possesses, we would delay them by perhaps a month, and then they would come for us, angry and vengeful, and there would be nothing left of our civilization but dust and memory. Dreth fell silent. He had no response. High Counselor Verith raised a hand, silencing the murmurs that had started around the chamber. Fleet Commander Zith, your report is troubling, but I sense there is something you have not told us, something else that concerns you. Zyra hesitated. He had debated whether to mention this. It was speculation based on incomplete information, but the counselors needed to understand the full scope of the situation. There is one more thing, Counselor, something I discovered in our intelligence archives. Go on. Approximately 300 years ago, before humanity developed faster than light travel, the Dominion sent a survey mission to their home system. The mission was classified at the highest level. I only found references to it because of my security clearance as a fleet commander. The chamber went very quiet. The survey mission was designated Colony Ship 7. Zyrus continued. It was supposed to scout the Sol system and report on the native species, but the ship never returned. Official records say it was lost to hyperspace accident. What are you suggesting? Verif asked. I am suggesting that the records may be incomplete. I am suggesting that Colony Ship 7 may have reached the Sol system. I am suggesting that whatever happened to it may have influenced humanity's development, their technology, their military philosophy, their determination to defend themselves at any cost. The counselors exchanged troubled glances. You believe the humans encountered our ship, Ver said slowly. You believe they learned from it, perhaps even acquired technology from it. I do not know, High Counselor, but I believe we should find out before we make any decisions about humanity. Zai took a deep breath. If the humans know about Colony Ship 7, if they know that the Dominion has been watching them for centuries, then our relationship with them is more complicated than a simple first contact. We may already have a history with them, a history we do not fully understand. The chamber was silent. Ver sat back in his chair, his ancient face unreadable. When he spoke, his voice was soft but carried clearly through the room. We must make peace with them quickly before they learn what really happened to Colony Ship 7. No one argued, no one questioned. The High Council of the Valoran Dominion had just accepted something they had never accepted before. There was a species they could not conquer, and there might be secrets in the darkness that could make everything worse. Far across the galaxy, in the quiet space near New Helsinki, the Thermopylae finished its patrol and set course for home. Captain Yuki Tanaka sat in her command chair, sipping tea from a ceramic cup painted with cherry blossoms. Around her, her crew went about their duties with calm efficiency. The encounter with the Dominion fleet had been recorded and reported to command. Analysis teams would study the data for years. Captain, her first officer said, do you think they will listen? Do you think they will accept peace? Tanaka considered the question. She thought about the fleet commander who had faced impossible odds and chosen to retreat. She thought about the captains who had attacked against orders and been shown mercy they did not deserve. She thought about the vast empire that had just learned it was not as powerful as it believed. I think they will, she said. Finally, not because they want to, because they have no choice. They are conquerors. They understand power. They will accept what they cannot change, and if they do not, Tanaka smiled slightly. It was a tired smile, but there was steel beneath it. Then we will be ready. We always are. She finished her tea and set the cup aside. Now take us home. Standard crew speed. No hurry, yes. Captain, the Thermopylae turned toward Earth and accelerated into the stars. Just another patrol, just another day. Humanity had met a new species. Humanity had shown them mercy. And humanity had sent a message that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. Do not threaten us, do not attack us, do not force us to show you what we can really do, because we will win. We always do. The rescue operations took 6 hours. Zyra watched from the bridge of the eternal supremacy as shuttle after shuttle twirled between the functional ships and the disabled ones. Fing cruised to safety. The 73 rebel vessels drifted in the darkness, dead and silent, their running lights extinguished and their engines cold. They looked like the skeletons of great beasts stripped of everything that had made them alive. The human ship, the Thermopylae, had moved to a position near the disabled fleet. It made no aggressive moves. It simply watched, patient and silent, as the Dominion cleaned up the mess its own captains had made. Commander Admiral Theon said quietly, standing beside him, all crews have been evacuated. Disabled ships are empty. Good. Zaius did not look away from the viewport, and Captain Drevin recovered. He is not handling the situation well, I imagine. Not. Zyrus finally turned to face his second in command. What is he saying? He claims the human weapon must be a trick, some kind of illusion or electronic warfare. He refuses to accept what happened. The expression was troubled. He is demanding to be returned to his ship so he can continue the attack. His ship no longer functions. Its engines are fused metal. Its weapons are slag. I told him that. He did not believe me. Zyrus shook his head slowly. Pride could make even intelligent beings in fools. Drevin had seen the evidence. He had watched his entire attack force go dark in less than 3 seconds, and still he could not accept that he had been wrong. Confine him to quarters, Zareth ordered. He will face a tribunal when we return to Dominion space. The charge is insubordination, leading to the loss of 73 warships. Yes, Commander. Feck hesitated. What will happen to him? I do not know, and I do not care. Zyra's voice was cold. His actions nearly started a war we could not win. His pride put every soul in this fleet at risk. If the humans had been less merciful, we would all be dead right now. Tis nodded and left to carry out her orders. Zyreth returned to watching the viewport. The Thermopylae still hung in the darkness, its hull reflecting the distant light of New Helsinki's sun. Such a small ship, such incredible power. Even now, after everything he had seen, it was hard to believe. Commander, the communications officer said, Captain Tanaka is hailing us. Put her through. The main screen flickered to life. Captain Tanaka looked tired but satisfied. Behind her, Zareth could see the bridge of the Thermopylae, its crew working at their stations with quiet efficiency. Commander Zyrus, Tanaka said, I see your rescue operations are complete. They are. I thank you for allowing us the time to save our people. Of course, I told you I did not want unnecessary deaths. Tanaka gestured to something off-screen. My crew has finished towing the disabled ships to the edge of the system. They will Remain there as a reminder of what happened today. Your government can send salvage teams if they wish, though suspect there is not much worth recovering. Our weapons and engines are beyond repair. Yes, the disruption field we used is designed to permanently disable military systems. The ships themselves are intact. Their life support will function on emergency power for several weeks, but they will never fight again. Zai absorbed this information, the technology to disable dozens of ships simultaneously without causing any loss of life was remarkable and terrifying. It meant the humans could win wars without killing anyone. It meant they could defeat entire fleets with minimal violence. That it also meant they could be far more brutal if they chose. If the Thermopylae could disable ships so easily, what could it do if its captain decided to destroy instead of disable? Captain Zaius said, I have a question. You may choose not to answer. Ask. The footage you showed us, the war against the Kree hegemony, your people did not show mercy then. You destroyed their entire civilization. Why spare us? Tanaka was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was thoughtful. The Grid attacked our colonies without warning. They killed millions of innocent people. They came to Earth intending to exterminate our entire species. We did not have a choice. It was them or us. She paused. You are different. You came with warnings. You announced your intentions. You gave us time to respond. That tells me you are not monsters, just conquerors who did not know any other way. And if we had attacked without warning, if we had struck your colonies before you knew we were coming, then I would have destroyed every ship in your fleet. Tanaka said simply, and the main battle fleet would have followed your hyperspace trails back to Dominion space, and in a year, maybe two, the Valoran Dominion would be a memory. Zara believed her after everything he had seen today. He believed every word. But you did not attack without warning. Tanaka continued, you followed the protocols of conquest you have used for 6,000 years. You announced yourselves. You demanded surrender. You gave us a chance to respond. She smiled slightly. That is why you are going home alive, Commander. Because you were civilized. About it, I'm not sure my superiors will see it that way. Then help them. Help them understand that there are some species who cannot be conquered. Help them accept that the Dominion's expansion has reached its limit. Tanaka leaned forward. Humanity does not want your territory or your resources. We want to be left alone. If your government can accept that, there is no reason we cannot coexist peacefully. And if they cannot accept it, if they send another fleet larger and better prepared, then we will destroy that fleet too, and the next one, and the one after that. We will keep destroying your fleets until you run out of ships or run out of pride. Tanaka's expression hardened. Humanity has fought for survival before, Commander. We have faced extinction and refused to die. We have built weapons capable of cracking planets and killing billions. We do not want to use them, but we will if you force us. We will. The bridge of the eternal supremacy was completely silent. Every officer was listening. Every officer understood. I will deliver your message, Zara said. I will tell the High Council everything that happened. Here, I will recommend peaceful relations with humanity. Thank you, Commander. Tanaka sat back in her chair. I hope they listen. The channel closed. Zyra stood alone in the center of his Bridge surrounded by officers who had just witnessed the end of everything. They believed the Dominion was not invincible. The Dominion could not conquer everyone. The Dominion had met species that could destroy them without effort. All ship Zero said, his voice quiet but clear. Set course for Dominion space. We are going home. The fleet began to move. 400 ships minus the 73 that would never fly again turned away from the new Helsinki system and accelerated toward the hyperspace jump point. They moved in silence. Their crew subdued, their captains humbled. As the eternal supremacy powered its hyperspace drive, Zaius took one last look at the thermopylae through the viewport. The human ship had not moved. It simply watched them go, a silent sentinel guarding its territory. Such a small ship, such a young species, such impossible power. The stars stretched into lines of light as the fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving the humans and their patrol ship behind. The journey back to Dominion space took 3 days. Zaius spent most of that time alone in his quarters, reviewing the footage, studying the sensor data, trying to understand what had happened. The more he learned, the more frightened he became. The humans should not have been able to develop this level of technology. They were too young, too isolated, too primitive. Every theory of galactic development said that species needed thousands of years to reach the level of power the thermopylae had demonstrated, but the humans had done it in centuries. They had done it through desperation and necessity. They had done it because they had no choice. The report Zaius prepared for the High Council was the longest document he had ever written. It detailed everything: the initial encounter, the sensor readings, the footage from the Kree War, the failed attack, the demonstration of human military capability. It included recommendations for peaceful contact, trade negotiations, non-aggression treaties, and it included a warning that the Dominion must not under any circumstances provoke humanity into a full-scale war, a warning that such a war would be the end of everything the Dominion had built. When the fleet arrived at the capital world, Zaius was summoned before the High Council. Immediately, the 12 leaders of the Dominion sat in their ancient chamber, their faces stern and unreadable. They had already received preliminary reports from the fleet. They already knew that something had gone very wrong. Zareth told them everything. He showed them the footage. He presented the sensor data. He described the failed attack and its aftermath in precise, unflinching detail. When he finished, the chamber was silent. High Counselor Vath, the oldest and most powerful of the 12, spoke. First, his voice was like grinding stone. You are telling us that a single patrol ship defeated 73 of our warships without firing a lethal shot? Yes, High Counselor, you are telling us that humanity possesses technology far beyond anything we have ever seen? Yes, yes. High Counselor, you are telling us that we cannot conquer them, that we must make peace with them, that we must accept limits to our expansion.